Hello and welcome. You will want to stay tuned for this edition of Telling Our Story in Prince George's County. I'll be joined by the chairs of the House and Senate delegations for the county, and later we will talk about the importance of health care with the President and CEO and the Chief Medical Officer of Dimensions Healthcare. I'm your host, Council Chair Andrea Harrison. Don't go away. Telling Our Story in Prince George's County is up next. We'll return in just a moment.
4 years ago, I went through something that was very difficult for me. I was faced with a very big challenge at a young age. Once I reached out to my sister, it got a little better. Once I told my mother, it got a little better. The more I talked about it, I felt it coming off. If you're strong enough to just open your mouth, that's all it takes.
Welcome to Telling Our Story in Prince George's County, a production of the Prince George's County Council. Our story is about caring people and vibrant communities, our children, youth, and families, our great opportunities for culture, and our rich history. A wonderful place to visit, featuring our past, present, and a future full of promise. This is Telling Our Story in Prince George's County. Insight, knowledge, and perspective on the things that matter to us all, with your host, Council Chair Andrea C. Harrison.
Hello, and welcome to Telling Our Story in Prince George's County. This program is a production of the Prince George's County Council. I'm your host, Council Chair Andrea Harrison. Telling Our Story in Prince George's County offers a unique opportunity for us to come together and share some of the great stories taking place in our communities. I believe our success as a county depends in part on our ability to tell our own story, and that's why we're here today. It is my privilege to introduce my first guests, State Delegate Melanie Griffith, Chair of the Prince George's House Delegation, and State Senator Douglas Peters, Chair of the Senate Delegation for Prince George's County. Welcome. It's great to have such partners in service to our citizens, to telling our story in Prince George's County. My colleagues and I on the council appreciate the opportunity to work together with you as a team on behalf of our citizens. Both of you recently appeared before the council to discuss the outcome of the 2012 General Assembly. Now, we have a clip of you, Delegate Griffith, referencing the importance of partnership in Annapolis.
The chair of the council actually spoke to leadership of the Appropriations Committee and demonstrated a true commitment to making sure that those resources reverted back to the county, and I certainly want to applaud you for that. In addition to each of you who's here, I can say that, and not just at our Friday morning meetings, but in our subcommittee meetings, whether it was alcoholic beverage bills, planning and zoning, local revenues, whatever the bill was, you all were there and made your voices known and your opinions heard.
As we talk about this session, would you share with our citizens some of the major issues that dominated the work this year? Senator Peters?
All right, thank you for having us today, and thank you for, the hearing we had yesterday. I thought, we talked about a lot of issues that were important to the county and how we can move forward with some of those that didn't make it in Annapolis. I have to think that this session was divided into two parts. The first 45 days was a discussion and debate about same-sex marriage. The other 45 days was the budget. The clock ran out, and then we had to go into a special session. So it was really kind of a tale of two sessions. The issue of same-sex marriage will probably go on the ballot, because I think the votes have to be, the petition has to be signed by the end of May for the first third of the number to get it on the ballot. And then the rest will be in the following month. I think they've already got, so the voters are going to be able to vote on that. The voters are going to have the DREAM Act on the ballot, and then the voters potentially, in July, could have a discussion about gaming. So those were kind of the issues generally.
We're going to come back a little bit later to talk about the gaming, but why, would you just tell our viewers why was a special session necessary? Talk a little bit about what happened during that session.
Well, certainly, Madam Chair, and I want to also join with Senator Peters in thanking you for having us and for your work this session. As you know, we spent a lot of time during the general session this year working on the state's budget and also a revenue package to support some of the expenses that are provided for in the budget. Prince George's County certainly worked together to make sure that the critical programs and services that our citizens depend on were included in the budget, even through the entire process to the conference committees. During some of the negotiations, it became very clear that we needed a revenue package to support the cost for the Geographic Cost of Education Index, which Prince George's County receives about $40 million out of that, and some of our crime grants and other programs that the citizens depend on in terms of just our quality of life. So as we negotiated with our colleagues from the other 23 jurisdictions in the state, we came up with a budget that, quite honestly, was the budget that we adopted in the special session. As Senator Peters said, it just didn't get adopted when we completed our work in April. So we went back in May to make sure that the citizens received those programs and services that we're counting on.
So at the end of the 90-day session, we were looking at what was called a doomsday budget. When you went back into special session, you adopted a state spending plan. Which of these is better for Prince George's County and why?
Well, the doomsday was really put in place as a backstop. It was never expected to be implemented, and Prince George's County would have been in deep trouble if that had been implemented. In fact, Delegate Griffith and I agree that there were some delegations that didn't even want to come back because they would have benefited from the doomsday budget. So it was in our best interest to go forward and put together the plan we did.
Yeah, I would almost have to add to that we really had to persuade colleagues from other jurisdictions of the importance of our returning to Annapolis, both because of the sacrifices people had to make in terms of taking off for those who have full-time employment outside of Annapolis, and for the expenses of bringing staff back and just the cost of doing business for a day or two in Annapolis. But it was absolutely critical, to the tune of about $65 million for Prince George's County, that we returned to Annapolis. And there were a couple of our neighboring jurisdictions that were, almost equally impacted, some of the larger jurisdictions. So we were able to persuade our colleagues that this was critical, and they returned and joined with us. So.
Senator Peters, you mentioned gaming and the possibility of another session as it relates to that. Do you really anticipate that happening? And talk a little bit about what the purpose would be and what you would hope the outcome would be if we have that.
Well, during the session, a bill was passed on the Senate side, so I do expect a bill to come out of the Senate. The House, however, didn't have enough time to thoroughly vet the issue, discuss it. Was rushed at the end, of course, with the budget, and that's why the budget didn't get through. So the governor and the House Speaker and the President sat down and formed a commission, and now they're going to actually study it, and if it comes to a position where they think it will benefit the state, we'll go back in July 9th and discuss it. Probably be the same length, 2 or 3 days, and it would be a referendum issue where the voters would say yes or no, they want it or they don't want it.
The governor just recently announced a work group on gaming. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, certainly, as the senator said, there were a lot of issues. He mentioned a few in the opening. The same-sex marriage bill, we had redistricting. There were probably nearly 2,500 pieces of legislation introduced by members of both houses, and gaming was one of many issues. What the commission does is it allows an opportunity for an issue that was feeling quite rushed on the House side to be slowed down and a more thorough look to be taken at that subject. Ultimately, the commission is made up of 3 appointees of the President of the Senate, 3 appointees of the Speaker of the House, and 5 appointees of the Governor. And that group is supposed to consider non-partial, non-partisan information provided by a consultant that will hopefully lend some insights as to the costs and benefits. The senator mentioned the benefits would be presented, but I think it's important that we also as a state take a look at the cost and possible negative implications of expanded gaming. As you know, we passed legislation in 2007 that allowed 5 locations in the state, and quite honestly, they're not all up and running yet, and so I believe the Commission allows us an opportunity to get more information and to really do a thorough assessment before expanding that which has not yet been fully implemented.
How did this year's General Assembly impact opportunities for economic development in the county?
Well, I would say both local legislation and statewide legislation created more opportunities for business and for economic development in the county. There was one bill in particular that we worked with you, Madam Chair, and your colleagues in the council and the county executive and his staff. Certainly our colleagues in the Senate were very helpful in tweaking a piece of legislation that we believe will create opportunities for businesses to really get their arms around economic development in Prince George's County and create some jobs for our citizens, which we're all looking forward to.
Speaking of which, after the governor was elected, shortly thereafter, he promised to bring a state agency to Prince George's County, and probably about a year and a half or 2 years ago, there was a big announcement about the Department of Housing and Community Development coming to Prince George's County, moving from Crownsville. What's the status on that?
Well, all the pieces were put in place, I think correctly, to put it near a metro station, and so we could obviously cut down on the traffic. But there was a lot of pushback from Anne Arundel. They didn't want to lose those jobs, so they kind of clawed, and tried to kind of fight that. Even during the session, they did that. So we fought them off with your help. But my understanding is that there's a bit of an issue with the investment partners. They're reconfiguring that partnership, and we should be able to move forward in the near future.
There was a lot of discussion about the teacher pension shift. Can we talk about that a little bit, and why was that necessary?
Sure, and at least on the House side, I'm not sure about the Senate side, but we began talking about the pension plan as cost sharing with our local jurisdictions. Maryland is one of very few states that has been, since the pension plan was developed in 1927, carrying 100% of teacher pension costs. And so as we have gone through the years, there have been a couple of things that have had major impacts on those costs. One is certainly the Bridge to Excellence legislation that we passed, where we determined as a state that we wanted to make sure that our teachers were given salaries that made them competitive with other professions and made them rewarded for the service they provide. But as you know, when salaries are increased, so are pension liabilities. The state doesn't have any influence really over what the local boards of education pay their teachers, and so as that liability grew, the state's pension costs grew. We have, as a state, made some major reforms in 2011 to help reduce the cost of our teacher pension. But this year, after about 7 years and 11 proposals that have come before the committee, we came up with a piece of legislation that we thought was reasonable. It actually phases in over a 4-year period the amount that it asked the locals to help with. And we provided, through the revenue package that came through Senator Peters' committee on the Senate side and the Appropriations Committee on the House side, we were able to put together with Ways and Means some offsets so that local jurisdictions would not feel a weighty change in their contribution to teachers' pension costs. It will be phased in over a 4-year period and give the local governments a chance to prepare for that added expense. But we really believe that the state is in partnership with local governments. We all want to see excellence in K-12 education, and people are living longer, so the cost of pensions is going up. That's a good thing, but it also means that we have to ask the local jurisdictions, as so many other states have, to chip in a little bit to pay that burden. And I should tell you, the state still maintains the large majority of that cost, which is the liability that is accrued from 1927 to today. So the local jurisdictions will be paying a small portion of the costs that happen on an annual basis.
Well, on behalf of the people of Prince George's County, the government and its residents, thank you for the phase-in that we are responsible immediately. Sure. Our last question, I just want to talk a little bit about a shared priority, and that's health care. You recently, Delegate Griffith, wrote a letter to an op-ed piece in the Washington Post on this subject. Can you all give us an update on where we are after signing the MOU last year for the regional health care in the county, and what will this project mean to both the county and the state?
You go ahead. You wrote the
Okay.
article.
Well, I know that you've been very, very passionate about the hospital and healthcare. But, Madam Chair, you and your colleagues, and really every elected official, and I believe every citizen in Prince George's County, is waiting anxiously for our state-of-the-art healthcare system that includes care from primary and preventative care all the way to end-of-life care, because our citizens have been very patient as we've worked through some of the complicated processes that we have. Ultimately, what it will mean for Prince George's County is jobs, 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 and improved access to quality health care. So many of our citizens, even and particularly those with insurance, are receiving their health care in other jurisdictions. And what we'd like to do is bring those people and those dollars back to Prince George's County, along with the jobs that surround the hospital. I always joke with people, and I probably shouldn't say this on the air, but I'd love to own the bagel shop or the flower shop across from a hospital in Prince George's County, because as we bring our citizens back, we'll be able to better provide for those with and without insurance, and develop some businesses that will, I believe, generate jobs outside of the medical profession, in addition to the many that will be created in the healthcare industry.
I'll feel a lot better when that $20 million is in the capital budget for the next 10 years, because we've all agreed a third, a third, a third, and until it's in that capital budget in the state, that's when I'll feel like we can give our thumbs up. But we'll be fighting for that because we both sit on capital budget, and it's frankly, Prince George's is due. So,
being a former member of the council, you certainly understand the plight and the issues that we have to address, our fiduciary responsibility as it relates to these. And so we appreciate your input, your insight, and you being on the other side working, because you certainly understand both sides, and we appreciate everything that all of our partners in the state have done to try and move this forward. A new regional medical center here in Prince George's County is so needed. Our healthcare system is doing a great job for what it has to work with right now, and to continue to build that for the residents of Prince George's County is certainly a wonderful opportunity. So I want to thank you both so much for being here with us today and sharing part of the story of what's going on in Prince George's County, so that our viewers and the residents know that there are wonderful things going on here in Prince George's County. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
thanks for having us.
It's now time for a short break. We ask you to stay with us as we turn to the subject of health care and get an update on what's new with our hospital system on Telling Our Story in Prince George's County.
So, you're looking for help with your mortgage. Worried about foreclosure? Messy stuff.
We're a mortgage rescue company. We can help you keep your house.
All we ask for in return is that you submit to our plans for galactic domination. We're not so different, you and I. Sign.
Yeah, this is not what we...
Have you met my henchman, Radu?
Nice to meet you.
Radu?
We'll see you later.
If you're facing foreclosure, make sure you're talking to the right people. Speak with HUD-approved housing counselors free of charge at 888-995-HOPE.
Welcome back to Telling Our Story in Prince George's County, a production of the Prince George's County Council. I'm Council Chair Andrea Harrison, your host, and I'm joined by two special guests from Dimensions Healthcare System, President and CEO Mr. Neil Moore and Chief Medical Officer Dr. Carnell Cooper. Thank you for joining me on Telling Our Story in Prince George's County. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. Thank you so much for coming. Mr. Moore, I know that you were recently appointed to the position of President and CEO of Dimensions Healthcare System. Would you share with our viewers a little about your background and your vision for the healthcare system?
Well,
Madam Chair, I was recently appointed as the President and CEO of Dimensions Healthcare System on March 22nd of this year. However, I've been working with Dimensions for the last 6.5 years. About a year ago, Dimensions Board of Directors, along with the management staff, developed a new vision statement for Dimensions, and that vision is to to be recognized as a premier regional healthcare system within Prince George's County. My vision is aligned with the Board of Directors' vision. About a year ago, the county executive, the governor, Dimensions Healthcare System, University of Maryland Medical System, and University of Maryland Medical School signed a memorandum of understanding to build a new regional medical center within Prince George's County. I would like to see that happen. I believe that the residents of Prince George's County is deserving of a first-class healthcare system.
Dr. Cooper, you're the Chief Medical Officer for Dimensions Healthcare System, Division Chief of Traumatology, and Medical Director of Trauma Services at the Prince George's Hospital Center. I understand that you're also a professor of surgery. What more do you want our viewers to know about you?
Well, I'd like for your viewers to know that I'm very committed to moving forward the care of the quality of the care that we're giving to our patients at the Prince George's Hospital Center and Dimensions Hospital Center in general. We have a number of new initiatives that we are trying to move forward under Neil's leadership, and my job is to help him move the system forward. And I'm very excited about that opportunity.
Great. Well, you know, Prince George's Hospital and Dimensions has a special place in my heart. And this story is about talking about the untold stories, those things that people don't seem to know too much about. Let's talk about some of the great strides that we have going on in the new happenings at the hospital system now.
I'll be happy to do that and have Dr. Cooper join in as well. We recently signed an agreement with the University of Maryland to take on the emergency medicine services within all of our facilities, Laurel, Prince George's, and the Bowie Health Center. We're very, very excited about that. We believe we will improve the quality of care. We believe that we will have a coordinated way by which we deliver healthcare services throughout our emergency room. It's the front door to our facilities, and we believe that I'm very, very excited about that.
And along with that, with bringing in that new group of physicians, we've also instituted something called relationship-based care. And really it involves a holistic approach to the patient, having the physician, their family, as well as the nursing staff really combine their efforts in front of the patient so they have a clear vision of that the staff and physicians all communicate with each other, and we have a plan that everyone is aware of, and that we're going to move the patient together forward as a team. We want to make sure our patients understand that we are communicating well. We want to make sure that they understand how important that our quality of care meets their needs, and that they are not only that they are satisfied, really, not with just our clinical care, but the way in which we deliver that care. So we're putting a lot of efforts into that, and I think that we're going to. We've already started to see some improvements in how our patients see us, and that's really very important to us.
You mentioned a little bit about the memorandum of understanding that was signed with the University of Maryland Medical System, and then you just talked about the partnership with the University of Maryland to take over emergency services. What's the progress report actually as it relates to the MOU? Where are we now, and how far away are we?
Well, there's a lot of collaboration. They're currently in the Phase 1B study. Phase 1A study was completed. Phase 1B study is the assessment of by the University of Maryland School of Public Health on a study in terms of the community needs. Also, KPMG is currently doing a study for the University of Maryland, and those studies will come together to determine the cost and the size of the new hospital system. In addition, we've established 4 key groups that we're working collaboratively with the University of Maryland. Out of one of those groups is resulted in the Emergency Medicine Agreement, and that's the clinical development. We've also collaborated on quality. We've collaborated on operational efficiency, and we've also collaborated on other operational aspects of the organization.
Many organizations strive to continuously improve customer satisfaction, and in your case it's patient care or case management. And you talked a little bit about some of those programs or what you're trying to do. Can you go into a little bit more detail about that?
Well, we are doing things across our entire system that really involve quality. There are we as an organization meet on a regular basis to assess how we are doing in terms of the quality of care, in terms of the patient satisfaction, in terms of something called core measures across our system. There's something called hospital-acquired conditions, which is a measure of our quality across the state that we have made significant strides in the past few months. We will continue to make improvements, again, across our system. We are looking at where our quality is from the time the patient hits our door throughout their hospitalization, and then we're doing follow-up with those patients once they're discharged as well, to make sure that, again, not only do we deliver that quality that we know through measures, but that our patients have a clear understanding of what we've done, and their perception is satisfied as well. Not only that we know that we've done good quality care, but their understanding of their care is good, and they're satisfied with it.
How does electronic medical records play into that and technology? The president has put a mandate out that by 2014 we would have these electronic medical records, and tracking this patients, how does that play in?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and we are currently in the middle of making a decision of which vendor we will use to establish electronic medical record in our system. It will play a significant role. It will improve the delivery of healthcare services. It will improve some of the inefficiencies that exist within our system, and the patients will benefit. The patients will be able now to access their the medical records differently from the manner in which they access their records in the past. It will not be a hard copy, but it will be on a disk or it will be on a chip that they'll be able to carry that medical records to any provider that they'll be able to see. It's a new wave. We are right on the cusp of implementation, and we're very hopeful that we will have an electronic record in place in 2013.
It will be important also in terms of our ability to track our quality. As we try new things within our system to see, to improve our quality, it will help us to measuring that.
Just a small little shift on our last question. What has Dimensions done to determine the community's major health problems, and are there any new programs in place to address those issues, and how are we doing? How does that work?
Well, one of the things we've done, the University of Maryland School of Public Health, the study which has just been completed and is in draft format, we've actually collaborated. We participated in that study. There were more than 1,000 households that were contacted in terms of what they see as their needs, what they see as their disease entities, what they see as some of the challenges within the county, and we're going to be using that kind of data. We also do post-discharge surveys with patients who come into our facilities and leave. What we do, we contact them and we get feedback from them, and we use that information to develop some of the strategies that we use to meet the needs of the patients that we serve.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. This certainly wasn't a long enough conversation, and as we move forward in our healthcare discussions, perhaps we can have you back on for a more robust discussion later in the year.
Agree.
That's it for this edition of Telling Our Story in Prince George's County. I want to thank my guests for sharing great and exciting news about our county. My thanks again to Delegate Melanie Griffith and Senator Doug Peters, and Dimensions Healthcare President Neil Moore, and the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Carnell Cooper, as well. My council colleagues and I look forward to continuing our work together on behalf of the citizens of this great county. Thanks to our viewers for tuning in. Telling Our Story in Prince George's County is a production of the Prince George's County Council. I'm Council Chair Andrea Harrison, and I am telling our story in Prince George's County.